All right, we got Solomon back on the Bagland podcast. How long has it been? About 4 months or so, maybe longer than that.
It's been so long, I forgot how to talk.
Yeah, it's been quite. It's been quite. It has been quite a hiatus. I have not done. I haven't done a program in about a month or so, and one thing I decided I'm gonna start doing, getting back into each of my programs. I think I'm gonna start doing because I didn't really do. I was supposed to do something for Black History Month, but I said, you know what? I'm gonna do Black History Year because it shouldn't just be one damn month. So every broadcast, I'm gonna cover a Black invention. I do that on my tech channel too, but I'm gonna start doing that. I'm gonna start getting a foundational report going. I mean, the broadcast is usually like a foundational report anyway, but I'm about to get more into, you know, showing, Black inventions, specifically America, and then I'm gonna check some stuff around the world as well too. But so what's we have a lot to cover. There's a lot of stuff that we had talked about over bits and pieces over the last few months and stuff. And one of the things that we were talking about is this whole, I want to get into this whole Uber thing, man. This whole Uber and Lyft situation in Minneapolis. A lot of people are not happy about this, man. And I'm thinking about like with the cab situation, if everybody has to go back to driving cabs, that means that they could just go get them an old cab and get painted for $2,000-$3,000. There's gonna be no autonomy with having to report to somebody. You could get a rude cab driver. He could say anything. He could overcharge you. I mean, what's gonna be looking forward to this? What do you think is gonna happen pretty soon?
So to rewind a little bit, so what was it? So Lyft and Uber are leaving Minnesota, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up the article and see what they say. Matter of fact, let's see if we could even get it on YouTube. That'll be even better so people can hear it. Because folks outside here won't really know what's going on up here in Minnesota. So, we got something on Fox. Matter of fact, there's a couple different videos. Let me start with this one.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. Emails went out today to rideshare customers that Lyft is leaving Minneapolis. Uber and Lyft both saying they're pulling out of the city over a new ordinance giving drivers a pay raise.
And right now, local agencies are scrambling, trying to figure out how to keep providing transportation to the area's most vulnerable residents. Jennifer Hoff joins us now with more on the big impact this is having. Jennifer?
Lauren, it's one leaders in nonprofit call a traumatic domino effect, especially on seniors.
Vulnerable residents. What do they mean by vulnerable residents? What does that mean?
I mean, well, because you got to look at it like this. So you, with a Lyft or Uber, it's a lot cheaper. If I'm going to the doctor's appointment in St. Cloud,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's going to be half the price. But see, here's the thing that, Uber and Lyft didn't realize. See, Uber and Lyft and a lot of these other motherfucking, driving, pick up orders, all this type of companies, what they call them, ride shares or something.
Right.
What a lot of them didn't realize is motherfuckers are going to be doing this shit 20 hours a day.
Right.
They thought, the intention was, you work your job and then you do this on the side. Uber and Lyft was supposed to be a side hustle for everybody.
But it's not.
But what happened is you got motherfuckers that be doing that Uber and Lyft 20 hours, 16 hours a day.
So they want
and then
some money.
You got people making crazy money. And then here's why, like the picture you sent me and a lot of your listeners, I think it was in the Star Tribune, that picture that you sent me with
Right.
the immigrants happy that they weren't. Here's the thing: is they wasn't cheering and celebrating because Uber and Lyft raised the rates or they were forced to pay people more. That's not why they were. That's not why they were out shouting and hollering. They were hollering because they knew they was going to leave. Uber especially made it very clear: y'all hike the rates up, we up. So here's what happens. So if you're an immigrant that's in one of these classes, he's in low-income housing, he's got student loans, or he's got child support. You got one of them three things, you don't want to drive Uber. You want to drive a cab. Because the thing with Uber is every dollar you make is documented.
Right.
If I own a cab, I could tell you I made $20 today. So guess what happens? My housing doesn't go up. My child support stays at a minimum. And my student loan payments go at a minimum. Nobody's sweating me.
So
that's why you seen those foreigners hooping and hollering when they seen that pay hike. It wasn't because they knew they was getting a raise from Uber. It was we knew once they leave how we're coming up.
So I'm like a legal D-boy in a way. I could put all this money under my mattress. I ain't got to report it to nobody. And when somebody says, hey, how much money you making? I only made a couple bucks today.
Good. I made a few. I don't know. How much did you make? I made about $50. That's it. Boom. You have to own the cab to do that. But just think of how easy that is. Not really. You could be leasing a cab out from somebody else and doing it. And that, I've seen East Africans in the Cedar Riverside area run that lick for years. And Uber took that away from them.
What about all the immigrants now? You know, some of them Somali brothers. What if they got a regular? Because I done been in situations where they picked me up at the airport. I mean, the Uber, it was an Uber. Lyft is a little bit more restrictive. I noticed that because I tried to drive for Lyft and I had a little rust on my car and they were like, hell no. Like, you got to kind of, Uber, they're a little bit more forgiving. But if they got a janky ass car, dirty ass car, and now they're saying, well, Uber and them is gone, do they got to go buy a cab now, or they just go get a Crown Victoria and spray it and for about $2,000 and be done?
Nah, you can't do that because you can't spray paying a Crown Vic and now you got a cab.
Well, I mean,
you can't do that.
I mean, a license.
You got to go just how it used to be back in the day: yellow cab, blue and white. Remember how there was all the different cab companies?
Where's all the cabs? Do they just got them sitting in a parking lot?
Got them around. The company can create the cab because you can have the cabbie, but do you have the dispatch, the box? That's the money.
I thought it's chaos bring you. You taught me this in high school. You taught me a phrase I'll never forgot. Chaos brings opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Chaos brings opportunity. Is this time for a foundational Black American cab company? Is this time because remember?
No.
So
you know why?
So I couldn't go and get one.
Why there's no room for another cab? There's no room for that right now. It's because of this. See, here's the thing: blue and white, red and white. I think it was I don't even remember. It was red, green, and blue, right?
Right.
Those companies didn't go out of business during Uber. They still stayed in business with people who own their own cabs that had, that just were leasing out the dispatch box. So they never left. They never left. So guess what? They're just going to implement. They'll just be right back to being in demand. I guarantee to any of your listeners here in Minnesota or whatever state you live in, you can call whatever cab company was in existence before. They're still in business.
I'm on the website for Blue and White right now. They got a real simple janky website. It says book now. They got an app.
But they're here.
They're still here.
They never left. It's not that they never left. Those cabs over there on Franklin and Bloomington, over there right by you pass the Native Center and you pass the Aldi's.
They're still there.
Red and white has never left. They got a bunch of cabs sitting right out there because you still got people who own their own cabs, right? But they still need that dispatch box. And maybe they have their regulars. They get rides to work and back every day. Their rates, a lot of people left and went to Uber and Lyft, but they stayed in business. So what's going to happen is now is this Minnesota's ride situation is going to go exactly how it was before Uber and Lyft existed.
Wow.
You call for a cab, they'll call you when they're 5 minutes away, and they'll pick you up, and the rates will probably be double.
So now what happens is, and like those guys, because you remember back in the day, I remember when my mom used to get a cab, my grandma get a cab, and a lot of times she'd have these immigrants picking her up, and they be talking crazy to her. They couldn't really report it. They would call up to the dispatch and say, "Hey man, this dude's talking nuts to me." And with Lyft and with Uber, you know, because I drove Uber at one point. If somebody just don't like you, they can leave you a bogus note. Sometimes Uber drivers, they would start recording this stuff just in case somebody lies. Because you're going to get some Karens coming up in there. You know, I'd pick up these white dudes from the bar. I'd have like a little not a cowboy hat, but I had a little hat on or something. They want to touch my hat. And I had to check a few of them like, man, don't touch my hat. You know, y'all need to go. Y'all need to know how to behave. And, oh man, I'm gonna make you a bad review or whatever. And one dude, he reached up and he's touching my radio and, oh hey man, what tunes you got? Some Master P or something, man? And I'm just thinking like, man, just ask me. You know, have some manners. But they come in there because they're just drunk and white. And hey, I rule the world, and you nigga, you gonna take me where you want, and I'm gonna do what I want. And there's been a couple times where I had to tell dudes they were just doing too much. They were doing way, way, way too much. And a lot of times they get in the car with black drivers and they start acting a damn fool because they figured that, well, I'll just call the police on a nigga if he checks me or whatever, or I'll give him a bad review. But now there's no autonomy. You can call the cab and there's no rating system. You know how red and white, there ain't no rating system. You call red and white complain, they're going to be like, whatever. Call another cab. We don't care.
Yeah, they don't care because the thing is the driver is not an employee. We're technically of red and white.
Right.
All he's doing is leasing out the dispatch, the dispatcher. So they're kind of, you know what I mean? They'll just tell you, all right, you know, well, we'll talk to him, but they ain't going to say nothing because he's really not an employee.
This is Fred Fry's fault. Fred Fry caused this to happen. What does he get out of this? Is he getting a cut? I'm starting to wonder if he's getting a cut or something.
No. Fry thought he was doing the right thing and trying to get all the Uber and Lyft drivers to be voters of his. So he thought he was doing a good thing. But Lyft and Uber, when they hit the Trump card and said, if you raising the rates, we just going to fucking leave. Because that's going to set a precedent. Now, every state don't want to do that. So, we just going to leave. Fuck y'all.
Now, they said the Twin Cities. Do you think I'm not sure if they operate in St. Cloud and the Duluth area and some of the other, like Rochester.
Twin Cities means all of Minnesota. There's only 2 cities. So that all the suburbs, all the syndicates, that means the state of Minnesota, you're not going to have Uber and Lyft.
Oh, so they leaving the state. They saying the hell with the whole state.
Yeah, they're done with the whole state. Because if they agree to that pay hike, other states are going to see that and do the same thing. The Uber and Lyft made a lot of people rich that the American government was not interested in being rich. Your average person that doesn't have a work ethic, don't have no skills, can't even speak English, can easily make $1,000 a day just sitting in his car.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
that's not what the intention was when Lyft and Uber started. I worked as a nighttime closing manager about a year and a half ago for GoPuff.
Right.
I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Yep. You told me about that. Yep.
Yeah. And I would see what they would do to the drivers. There would be the store open at 9 in the morning, and it closed the last order was at midnight. I knew some drivers that would they motherfucking sit there from 9 in the morning till to midnight doing orders. The whole 7 days a week. And what happened is now for this company, wait a minute, we paying you so much money, you working so many hours, you're a full-time employee.
Liability.
So now we get in the thing, we're not offering benefits, we're not doing that. So I've seen Lyft, GoPuff, I'm sure Uber and Lyft done the same thing. I've seen them cool off some drivers. I've seen some drivers that ain't done a motherfucking thing wrong. They just suspend their account.
Damn.
They'll come up with some bullshit excuse, but the truth is you just making too much money. This is not the intention of this. When Uber and Lyft for the drivers, it was intended on just being a part-time job for everybody. They didn't intend on the full-time, I drive Uber for a living. You know what I mean? And then with a pay hike, so you got a lot of these East African immigrants, and this is a come up for them because now my income isn't being documented. So I could tell child support, I make $100 a day, or I make $50 a day. I need Minnesota, I need food stamps. I need housing. I need all. It opens up a lot for immigrants, which is the real reason they were hooping and hollering. They didn't care about them getting a raise. The real raise is now that Uber and Lyft are leaving. And if they get begged to come back, they're going to come back under the agreement that you can never fuck with our rates.
So either way, those Somali brothers, it's a win. It's a win.
Either way, they were going to win, but the bigger win is not reporting your income, because that opens up a lot of doors.
So there's 10,000. I'm hearing that there's somebody was saying, because this is going to be big. Right when I seen it, I pinged my Somali homie. I said, bro, this look like this is going to do some shit. This is going to be a paradigm shift in Minneapolis. I said, if 10,000, I've heard something say, I'm going to play the video in a second. 10,000 or so people going to be put out of work in that regard between Lyft and Uber. Do they got well, you don't.
They won't be put. They just won't be working for Lyft or Uber. They'll just go back to driving cabs.
Is there 10,000 cabs?
Yeah. You take into account the suburban cabs. You got Rainbow. I mean, you got what, 5, 6 cab companies. Each of them can have 2,000 cabs out there.
Here's a bigger question. Let's be generous. Let's give them 6,500 to 7,000 cabs. Do you foresee this being an automotive increase? Like, okay, because there's a lot of cabs that get sitting around rusting, get sitting around in a bunch of parking lots and stuff. They run, them Crown Victorias are like beasts. They got that 4.6 engine, beautiful engines. They run like a charm. Do you think that now that this is going on, a lot of the people that either own cabs or the cabs is kind of sitting around, out there in the cab junkyard, they gonna have to go and get them certified or make sure they're running up the code, you know what I'm saying, stuff like that. And is this going to be a boost for the repair shops that they typically do their vendor stuff from?
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, sure, it could be. But here's the thing: is that number that you brought out, you have to cut that number into a third, because what happens in the cabbie world is, like, say I own a cab. I'm not going to lease it to one person. I'm going to lease it to 3 people, 8 hours a day. You know what I mean? There's going to be one person that's leasing it in the morning, one person in the afternoon, one person at night. Each of them doing 8 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, so each one of them, I need 150 a day from each one of you.
Oh, so they got to make 500 a day then.
Well, I mean, in the 8 hours, if you told each of them I need 700 a week from each one of y'all. You know what I mean? And then, so what they're going to do is they're not documenting anything. I'm not documenting anything either. So it works so much different.
I would have never thought that Red and White, and you know how small it is, right over there over south, man. Red and White, it's just a small little building. I was like, damn, where are they going to put all these cabs? But like you said, these cabs going to still move. People going to be driving them all over the place.
Not just that, it's back on and popping. And then not only that, it's going to be even bigger for the cab industry, because now they got new drivers. They got motherfuckers who were not thinking about driving cab, but then they were driving Lyft, and then they just got used to sitting and driving people around all day. They're going to go right. I wouldn't be surprised if a couple more cab companies come out and play, but the thing is Mayor Fry, it ended up kind of busting Minnesota in the ass because they're going to lose a lot with welfare and
Fray Fry, Fray Fry need to do with all these niggas, these carjacking ass niggas, because that they about to pass some new laws to get their ass off the street too. They should be like, all right, nigga, you 18 years old, you got a carjacking felony, you gonna sign this paper and you gonna drive this cab. You carjack again, you getting 20 years. To me, that's a good idea. Get some young niggas that they ain't gonna do it. But I'm saying, okay, you like the carjack? All right, your diversion program is that you gonna drive a cab. You gonna pay your restitution and you gonna drive a cab. So because most of the folks is doing these kind of crimes, they're not the brightest of the bunch. They weren't like me. Like I did a video the other day, man, on my other channel, bro. And I was talking about something, and I wanted to run this by you because I know you remember this. When we were younger, man, what was it, 94, 95, 96, maybe 97? Like, we had after-school programs. We was to go to the Workforce Center on 38th in Chicago, and we had summer programs every year, whether it be the Brian Coyle Center, the Mixed Blood Theater, or, you might get a job at Cub, but every year, and it wasn't that much money. It ain't in comparison to now. Things cost more, of course, but I'm saying for somebody that's young, I mean, I had the CD hustle and stuff, and then I worked too. But we had pretty much, if you got up and you went down to the Workforce Center, man, you was 14, 15, 16, 17, you was guaranteed to get a job. So if these guys, these kids, man, they 12, man, the Kia boys and all them niggas, they 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, they carjacking cars, they ain't really getting no real money out of this shit. You gonna get a felony. Put them in, if you 18, we gonna put you in a cab. You gonna drive this cab or we sending you to jail. And eventually, see, Minnesota don't think like that because they want to keep the prison system going. But if you had these young guys 18, they driving a cab, because all they really trying to do, a lot of these guys, we know they just trying to impress the hoes. You see what I'm saying? So they just drive you a cab, man, and you gonna make about $300-400 a day.
Yeah, well, if they thought, if people thought in a logical manner, you wouldn't even have to explain it to them like that.
So
the thing is that this whole carjacking bullshit, just like ironically, I'm the caretaker where I live.
Right.
But this guy knocked on my door and he said, I heard you're the caretaker. I said, yeah, why, what's up? He said, my car. He said, somebody stole my car from St. Paul, and I looked on the GPS, and it's in your garage or the building. I said, really? Wow.
Damn.
So we went down there. There was a bunch of needles in there. And
fuck.
They just joyriding, looking to get high. You know what I mean? That's the thing is like, at one time, I thought there were some major chop shops going on.
Me too. We talked about that. Yep.
Yeah, it's not. It's just some kids getting high, man, and they high off those blues, and then they want to joyride a little bit, and then they ditch the car. Like they ditched this car in our garage,
and then they just left.
In St. Paul. They just ditched it. They ain't even, I don't think it's as elaborate as people think. I think they're just stealing cars and joyriding because these kids.
That makes it. Now that makes my proposition. If I sat down with Fray, Fry wouldn't like me. Fry wouldn't like me at all because, and then Fry got banned in Cedar Riverside. They don't want him over at the mall. Fry's not gonna win this next election.
He got banned from all 3 Somali malls.
Oh, so they don't want him in none of the malls.
No, he's banned from all 3 Somali malls. He's banned from any Muslim or Somali-owned business on the West Bank.
Yeah, our mayor, he said all remote workers were losers. He tried to take that back as a joke, and I said, okay, this nigga here is really, he's really talking slick at the mouth. Where did Fray Fry get the nerve? He's been getting a lot of nerve lately.
Well, Is he running for another term?
You know what? I don't know if he is. I think he knows it's a wrap. I don't know if he
I
is.
think you could. I think you can only. What is he? The mayor? The governor? The mayor?
He's the mayor.
I think you can only do that twice, right?
Oh, okay. So I see it. Okay, this is his second term, right?
So he's moving on.
Okay.
And the thing is now, he's big in the Jewish community now, so the Jews got something for him,
Yeah, I think he's Jewish too. I think
he is Jewish.
Yep. Yeah.
That's the root of his problem with the Somalis. The problem with the Somalis was he, as a Jew, was supporting Israel.
Right.
When the Hamas organization that people, I guess represented the Palestinian people, fucked them up. So he spoke out against the people of Palestine. Thing is, though, so the Somalis are Muslims, just like the Palestinians, so they took offense to that.
Yeah, they locked in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they in pocket. So they took offense to that. They took great offense to his mouth.
Yeah, I was telling one of my homies and stuff, and and so you don't really hear about it right now, but they were really trying to get on foundationals about not getting into this and saying this and saying that. We're like, hey, we got our own issues over here. Most of those race soldiers get trained over there in Israel. This ain't our issue. It's very, very unfortunate what's happening. And we know the deal. We know that Israel been always, giving guys a sore deal. But we like, you know what? We need our tangibles. We need an anti-black racism crime bill. We need a lot from this damn country. We gonna stay out of that. So a lot of times folks was up there like, well, y'all need to do this. No, we're not. And like I told my homie, I said, he's like, well, yeah, man, black folks need it. I said, bro, I said, let me tell you something. And I said this to him, and he probably never thought about it. I said, the guy that called the police on George Floyd, where was he from?
Mike, I know him personally.
I said, where was he from? Now, I said, I'm not casting the stone on all of them. I'm just saying, they're going to look out for their images, and if niggas start going to bat for them, black foundational blacks, we ain't going to hear nothing at the end. It's always going to be a sacrificial. We always have a sacrificial relationship with any other group. So you know what? We gonna stay this out. Hey, it's very unfortunate what's happening. We all over there. It's very unfortunate. We got to deal with something else. We got issues in Chicago where they closing down black schools and they letting in all these Venezuelans and all that. Hey man, we got bigger fish to fry. Because see,
even if you was mad, there wasn't a motherfucker thing you gonna do to Jews in Israel.
Right. I mean,
look at the U.S.
Man.
For probably the last 2 or 3 months, I don't even know if there's anything in Palestine left. I think the whole West Bank has been just bombed.
So they got
U.S. didn't step in.
So they got the land. They got what they want.
Yeah.
So my whole thing with that is, bro, is like, okay. And see, here's another thing. And I think it was a CIA whistleblower or somebody that's finally came out. What was it? Crying Negro Network, I called it CNN. There was somebody that was talking about how, like, when it first happened, and I seen the rockets, and I said, wait a damn minute. They have the most sophisticated cybersecurity program on the planet. You telling me that y'all got them rockets in there willy-nilly? Somebody left that shit down, man, gets to kick off a war. I'm not stupid. This is the oldest trick in the book. And so, when I started kind of seeing a lot of the pictures, and I was seeing all these little Palestinian kids, and they was getting killed and all that, and I said, well, look, man, they going to have to handle that, man. They going to have to figure that out. But yeah, Afraid Fry, yeah, this whole Uber thing, and this kind of goes into, and I was going to talk to in a segue with the TikTok thing. I was telling you with the TikTok. The TikTok ordeal, now think about it like this. This is something that people don't think about. The Chinese version of TikTok ain't got no ratchet stuff. Ain't nobody twerking. Ain't nobody smoking they dead ops. Ain't no race soldiers running around. Their stuff is very, very constructive. Okay? But the thing with TikTok is this. It got a whole bunch of goofy ratchet shit. It got a bunch of immigrant coons on there. It got some old ratchet ass niggas doing dumb shit all day. But then it has some constructive stuff where you look up and be like, damn, I didn't know that. And that's a tool, which could be very dangerous. Because if you get a bunch of black folks around the world communicating like, hey, man, this is what's going on. Check this out. Hey, we could do this. We could do that. We could work together. We could blah, blah, blah. They're like, okay, that's a problem. And what it is there's too much stuff that on there that can't be debunked, especially with the jab and the vaccine. It's been too many whistleblowers and too much information where people have been waking up. And the powers that be are like, man, oh, no, we can't have that. And see, they're looking at China like, all right, you're using this tool as a information propaganda piece. Have you ever heard the program MK Ultra?
No.
Well, I want my listeners to look up MK Ultra tonight. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm just going to say, just look it up. And you got Google or TikTok still going on. The ban is not in effect right now. They're saying you got to sell the company in like 160 days. Well, why would you want them to sell the company in 160 days? They're saying that you need to sell it. Well, who's going to buy it? It's probably going to be Elon, or it's probably going to be Facebook, and they're going to rewrite the algorithms and codes to where if I share something and say, well, all right, I just seen Julius Malema over there in South Africa trying to kick the Boers out. He's tired of European colonization. I'm going to kick them in the ass. Well, if other black folks around the world see that, we might be like, yeah, get their ass up out of there. We may agree. They don't want that. What if they just say, hashtag Julius Malema, filter out? They could reprogram the algorithm to basically not let us know anything that's going on in South Africa or Haiti or whatever's going on. So we really don't know anything where, we might have some family or whatever the case may be. They basically want to make it almost like a North Korea. We will put out what we allow to put out. So they're going to sell it. And, because I'm in technology, I get to see things from a different lens. Now, Jim Crow Joe just signed off on it. Now, you've been predicting this for 6 months ago. You said Joe's in trouble. And so every time I see an article, I'm like, bro, you're right. And I sent you a new one and a new one. And every time I look up Jim Crow Joe, he's having trouble with the polls. And surprisingly, it's been, not a lot, but it's been a decent amount of black folk. And I'm going to play a clip in a minute too, because I want to get back in on this other clip where it's been a decent amount of black folk and people that's just kind of like, okay, they getting on the Teflon Don train. Now, why do you think that is, real quick, before I go back into this taxi cab video?
Well, because politics has turned into a popularity contest, and Trump is more entertaining because of the simple fact that I think everybody now knows that all politicians are liars.
Right.
So you might as well just deal with the one that's more entertaining.
He said, what do you got to lose? He said, Baltimore. Yeah. He said, what do you got to lose? He said, your unemployment's horrible. You don't have a lot of black-owned businesses. And the thing, but here's the thing that the mistake that, and I know a lot of black Americans, they tired of this shit. They feel like, man, we old. We ain't getting what we owed. We getting freebies from the Democrats for 100 years. But the idea to just say, well, I'm going to leave one plantation to go to it because you're mad at another, that's not strategy. And see, a lot of black folks are smart saying, man, I'm just staying home. But then the black folks is mad. You're mad at one overseer and you go to the other and say, well, I'm mad at him and I've been serving him 100 years. Then we just go over to the new one. That's not a strategy. See, the Montgomery bus system was a strategy and we should have stayed off that bus. You remember in Montgomery, Alabama, when the white supremacist was telling black folks, well, you need to get to the back of the bus. So what they did is black folks actually strategized. A lot of people thought what happened with Rosa Parks was random. It was not. What they did was they found an upstanding sister, because what the race soldiers were going to do is if Rosa Parks would have got arrested, what they do immediately? They start doing research. They went and found somebody that didn't have no chinks in her armor. They couldn't call her a slut. They couldn't say that she had bastard babies. There was nothing about Rosa Parks that they could have used in the news. So they just found a squeaky clean black person and they sent her up in there to say, hey, well, I ain't getting off. Now, a lot of people don't know. I tell this story all the time. Ida B. Wells was Rosa before Rosa. In the early 1900s, Ida B. Wells paid for a ticket, and they tried to get her off the train and tell her what she got to go to the back of the bus or whatever, the back of the train. And Ida B. Wells said no. So the Billy Bob was like, "What, nigga? No, you gonna get to the back of that train. You're a Negro." She said, "I paid my fare. I got first class. I'm not gonna get to the back of the train." So the race soldiers tried to put hands on her. And Ida B. Wells gave them the Mayweather special. Ida B. Wells gave the race soldier the beats. And so she actually went to court, beat them, and took it all the way to Supreme Court and lost. The white Supreme Court said, you're black. We don't have to abide by Negro rights because you're not a citizen. You are an animal. You're not a human being. So, all them little lower superior courts and all that stuff that you won in, I'm white and I say so. You lost your case. Now she really won the case, but they're like, okay, you're black, so you're not a citizen. You're 3/5 as a human, so you can't. We don't have to abide by any rights to the Negro to respect to a Negro, and that kind of goes off of the Dred Scott thing, which I think that might have came later, but I will talk about that in a minute too, because a lot of people don't know that was in Fort Snelling. A lot of people don't know. They be like, well, that was in Wisconsin territory. Well, Wisconsin territory was considered Minnesota at one point. Dred Scott came up here and basically said the same thing. He was like, well, in the South, he was a slave. He came up north and said, well, nigga, I'm free. And his slave master basically said, well, no, nigga, you're black. You're not free. You made it to the north, but you're not free. And so he sued his slave master like, nigga, I am free. And the white Supreme Court said, you're a nigga. We don't have to abide by any respect to a black man. You're not a human being. Get back in your chains. And so he lost the case. But anyway, like with Rosa, we got off the bus, and that crippled the whole economy of Alabama. That destroyed the economy of Montgomery, Alabama. Black folks will be smart to destroy the Democrat Party and say, you know what, we staying home, just to send a message. Now we know that y'all gonna get your illegals to come up here and and get your votes, and you're gonna do that. But no, you just ain't gonna get a free vote from us. But a lot of black folks are so mad at the Democrats that they just say, well, I'll just go over to Donald and I'll just vote GOP. Well, that's not gonna work either, because the difference is with the Democrats is they go to the black folks and they say, well, we'll do this, we love you, and blah 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 blah, and the boogeyman's gonna come, and Don's gonna get in and the sky's gonna fall down. And that's what they tell us. They tell us that the sky's gonna fall down. So niggas get scared and they vote Democrat. But if you go over to the GOP, what they tell you, hey man, what's up with reparations? They be like, well, nigga, you should have talked to Obama. We're not gonna give you reparations. We're not gonna give you anything. They'll just let you know flat out, right out the gate. We not gonna give you nothing. We might hire a nigga like Tim Scott. We might get a couple Sambos and pay them a few bucks or something like that. They'll get them a Candace Owens or whatever. But we're not really going to give you anything because, the Democrats didn't give you anything. So we're not going to give you anything. Now, the difference between I think a lot of black folks, that some of them that are going towards the Republican Party, they're like, well, Don didn't really pass any policies to harm us. Not really. The only thing that now there's been some GOP people in Congress that has, but Don didn't really pass nothing to harm black folks last time. Now he didn't do nothing to help us. He left a few niggas out of jail, but Joe and the Democrats, they're going beyond. I mean, they're literally passing policies. He came in passing policies. He came in last time passing policies like, hey, you ain't black. Get with the Hispanics. I'm going to look out for illegals and LGBT and everything else. So, I mean, they actually, for all of the leverage that they had, and now he's telling black folks he got our back. So what is, in your opinion, what does he mean by he has our backs? What does that mean?
That means that I know that the black voters are upset with Biden, so let me say something that maybe could sway y'all to vote for me.
Now the chicken. There was a picture.
And hold on, not to cut you off, but you see, when he's addressing black people, he always has to speak subtly,
right,
and in passing.
Yeah.
Because, he'll say things like, like with that quote you just made, or, he'll say things, in favor of black people quick and in passing. Because he, at the end of the day, he could just come out and say, hey, black people, I love all y'all. I love black people. I ain't got nothing against nobody. Let's kick it. But he can't alienate his real fan base. If he starts talking like that, hey, racial equality, we all should love each other. He's not getting the votes that he's getting now. He showed you when he won the first election. There's a lot more racist people in America than you think. Even if you want to say that Trump's not racist, that's fine. You can say that. But his voters are.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the real thing. His voters, any motherfucker that hates niggas, foreigners, anybody that feels a certain way about foreigners shouldn't be here like that, is 100% voting for Trump. And that mentality supersedes Republican or Democrat.
Now,
because in America, there's just as many poor people that are racist as there are rich people.
Facts. Now, in Florida, a lot of the Latino population, why do they go red? They'll come in blue and they'll go red real quick. You'll get somebody like DeSantis. He's Latino, right? They'll get somebody like him, and he'll say, hey, we can't have no black history books up in here. We got to get these black history books up out of here.
Well, it's like, you see, all foreigners are blue when they first get here because the blues was helping them. So they stay loyal. But they turn red once they get a little status. Because what's the first thing you do is when you get status, you hang around other people who have status. But guess what? Maybe you and your circle of community members, you might be one of the only people who made it.
Right.
So what happens? You end up hanging out with other kind of motherfuckers, not your own. And another thing is, most people that make it financially would prefer to be Republicans just because of the tax breaks.
Right. Yeah.
You got to take that into account too, But there's a foreigner is going to have that feeling of accomplishment. I made it, even more than American.
So now
Mexicans, they don't do a whole lot of reaching back.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of folks down there in Florida that say, hey, we don't want illegals here. We don't want no immigrants. And I'm like, whoa, what? Nigga, you an immigrant. They were like, no, I'm not. I came here legally. So they look at them almost like, they were saying, get them up out of here. Because they felt, like you said, like they got a leg up. Oh, I pulled myself from the bootstraps. They always tell that to black folks all the time. I pulled myself up from my bootstraps. And the reality is they didn't. They had help. They had laws that black Americans fought for them to even get here. But then once they make it, they'll say, well, hey, you're lazy. I pulled myself up from my bootstraps. And it's simply not true. They were given boots. And then 10 years down the line, you may forget about him, and they be like, well, he's making $200,000-300,000 a year. Well, I pulled myself up from my bootstraps. You're lazy. You're lazy. Go back to Africa. That's usually the talking point that they give. You're lazy. Go back to Africa. You shouldn't get no reparations. And then they'll say, well, hey, I don't like illegal immigration. And I'm kind of thinking like, okay, this dude's an immigrant. He may be a first or second generation, but he's an immigrant. He didn't come he fled his country and came here, and he says, well, the other people are lazy, but he couldn't make it in his homeland. Now where do they get that narrative from? Where's that from?
Well, where that comes from is it's hard to compare Americans with people who come here from third world countries.
Okay.
Because typically, somebody that comes from a place like South America or Africa, when they get to America, their whole family is depending on them.
Okay.
You know, so you might have 4 or 5 brothers and sisters, mom and dad. Some, you know, your brothers and sisters might have kids and families now. So say you're responsible with taking care of 5 or 6 people. What are you gonna do? You're gonna work as many jobs as you can.
Right.
You know? So then what happens is now this foreigner is working 2 jobs and he's seeing the average American is not. So that foreigner's not understanding that you're in a situation where you're having to support a lot of people. I'm not. So it's a different mentality, you know?
There's these guys, and I think they GOP guys. One was, you heard of him, I think Vivek. And then there was another dude named Dinesh. It's two Indian coons. Now, they're always posting videos and saying stuff slick about black Americans. Oh, crime, Chicago. Oh, your neighborhoods and your ghettos and stuff. And I noticed in the last couple years, there's been some black folks that's really been calling them out, saying, "Wait a minute," and people have obtained videos of their homelands. Now they have a lot of slick stuff to say about black Americans and us being criminals and all that. And I done seen a few videos where they come from, they are tying women to trees and beating the hell out of them. Literally, they got rape is an open culture. Where you got women they got to be careful now in their countries, but they got like women that are being activists that's saying, "Hey man, we being openly raped by groups of dudes and all kind of stuff." We're like, "Wait a minute, nigga, you not gonna say nothing about black Americans but you ain't said nothing about back home. Y'all up here living in the slums, raping women, beating them in broad daylight on a camera. You're not going to say nothing slick about us." So and there was another Indian dude that had called, I can't remember what it was, but I seen a tweet. There was an Indian dude where he called Vivek out, and he basically said, "Nigga, if it wasn't for black Americans, we wouldn't even be over here." So it was a couple Indians that was calling that dude out. You know, he's one of these Indian coons. He was right-wing guy. He uses like how like Candace Owens be talking? Well, ain't no such thing as racism, ain't no white supremacy, you Negroes are lazy and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that. Like he says the stuff that the race soldier probably don't want to say, and they just pay him. I don't know if you noticed, but the GOP's been kind of turning on Candace in the last 6 months. No, is she getting her coon retirement plan? What's going on?
No, it's just, Candace don't want to pick a lane, That's the thing with the Republican Party. They want you to pick a lane.
Okay, so they want you to go full coon.
Yeah, and her thing is she be knocking them too. So her thing is she's trying to build a fan base, but she's bigger than politics,
Right, yeah.
And she has.
Yeah. Yep,
She'll knock both sides.
Oh, they don't like that. They don't want a black person to play both sides of the fence.
No, they don't want that shit at all.
They don't want that. They want you to be a good Negro and do what you're told. So yeah.
And she's got a lot of followers. And
yeah, she does.
She's very influential. So they don't like that. But when Trump runs for office, she'll be back to being cool though, because she likes Trump.
Who? I wonder who his running mate's gonna be.
Oh wow! I don't know. Probably DeSantis.
You know what? That I get. That is possible. That is possible. At first I thought, well, maybe they'll. And I said, nah, I don't think they're gonna have Tim Scott. They're not gonna have Tim Scott because they still looking at Tim like, nigga, you're black. you could walk around like Diamond and Silk if you want, but you black. So yeah, I don't think they're gonna. And what really surprised me is you're actually considering going to the polls. That shocked me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think America needs Joe Biden out of office.
He can't think.
You know,
He can't even finish his sentence.
he can't think. You know, he made a lot of promises. See, the thing is like Hillary Clinton used to say, don't make any promises to black people.
Right.
Just show sympathy, you know?
Yep.
He made promises.
Yep, he
and
did.
He fulfilled none of them. He's incompetent. And then, sorry about that. And then I look at the conduct and behavior of his son.
Oh, man. Yeah, man. That's bad. That's real bad. Crack pipe Joe. Hennessy nigga deal Hunter. He want the Hennessy nigga deal. Now, what did he mean by the Hennessy nigga deal? He said, don't give me no Hennessy
He said,
nigga
I
deal.
don't want no Hennessy nigga deal. That means I don't want, he's trying to say that I don't want no bullshit Palmer's Bar shot bullshit. I'm talking legit business.
Give me, don't give me the nigga deal.
Yeah, he's trying to say is don't cut me short.
Why didn't he just say that? Why did Hennessy?
He's trying to sound cool.
Oh,
and he was smoking dope, probably fucking high. I mean, his brother died in a car accident. Then he married his brother's wife, the
man.
widow.
Are you
These
serious?
people ain't got no. Yeah.
Damn.
Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden's brother, died in a automobile accident, and then the younger brother, Hunter, married his wife.
Why isn't CNN asked? Why isn't the Democrats taking him to town with this? Why is he? Can you imagine if that happened to Teflon Don?
Well, CNN and all these influential news stations, Trump attacked their credibility and denied them certain access. So they don't want him winning. You know, that's simple. I mean, if you taking a company like CNN that's been around longer than me and you, and he's rude, he's attacking their credibility, calling them fake news and then denying their reporters questions and access to the White House. Of course they don't like him. So they're going to sway, especially right now during election time. You're going to see every news station except for Fox News is going to be all over Biden in a positive way. His approval numbers might be low, but when you're a couple months, 6 months out from the election, all Democrats' approval rates go low. But then the act right comes in. And the Democratic Party starts coming into these inner cities and they start explaining to them, oh, the boogeyman's going to take all your housing and all your benefits away from you. You got to vote for us. So all that anger goes away. So it's just like this to your viewers, people in Minnesota. It's just like how every winter, every Minnesotan talks about leaving. And then it gets warm and you forget all about it. Right?
Right, yeah.
Equate it to that.
Catfish dinners.
So all this approval rate, black folks, everybody's mad with this and this and that. Well, come election time, that act right will come. It'll turn into summer, and they'll start telling you why you can't vote Republican.
Catfish dinners. He went to some black home and he was eating catfish and chicken. Likening
Who is it?
Joe. Likening black folks to catfish and chicken is crazy.
Yeah, she cooked it for him.
He went to, well, you know, this is more their little propaganda, this little Negro propaganda. He want to get some street credibility by showing up in a black home. He went to some place in some country, some restaurant, Carolina or something. I think he went by and he picked them up some catfish and fries. And so he's sitting there talking about, oh, you need to vote for me. Photo ops. It's credit.
Oh,
yeah, photo ops. Come vote for me, blah, blah, blah. We going to talk about, all this stuff. Like he was lying on this other program talking about, black folks have accumulated more wealth than ever. When? Man, we could go in our old neighborhood, and I mean, mainly it's mainly like East Africans over there. But we could go to the Seward neighborhood. We go to any damn neighborhood in Minneapolis you want. Where is niggas getting more than 60% of the wealth? Where?
Well, first of all, when Africans, in the way he's talking, they count in that.
Right? Yeah, they do. They do. They absolutely
Yeah.
do. They throw them in there, and then they
Yeah,
what they
he
do
throws
is they,
them in there.
and they tell.
And so if he thought if you're not informed and you don't know any better, you just gonna believe what he said.
Yeah, we know that's not
what
true.
he's looking for.
We know that's
I mean,
not true.
I mean, the promises you make, I don't knock politicians for lying, because, I mean, it's just a part of the territory.
Right.
But when you make promises to a race of people, and then you go out of your way to take care of every other race and sexual and religious group except for black, that just seems intentional. And that's where he got my ire, and I said, this guy needs to leave.
Chicago, they got they closed down all them black schools, and it's really sad what's going on, man. And like I say, I don't really personally have any. I don't personally have like a beef to pick or a bone to pick with the immigrants. My issue is really with the system now. If they start talking slick about us, that's something else. And when they start getting on the news talking about, well, I thought I was with the American dream and I want more, and this hotel ain't enough, and I should go back home. Take your ass back home. But hey, I don't really want to see nobody out in the freezing cold and shit like that. But when they start overlooking black veterans, and when a lot of times when I be driving around, and I remember like I used to I stopped giving dudes change and stuff, and I gave some guys a change the other day, and I sat back and thought about it like, okay, we got folks, man, that's been over here well over 30, 40 years and lived their whole life here, and some of these folks got mental health or whatever the case may be. But a lot of them countries, bro, I did some research. A lot of times the government is working hand in hand with a lot of these cartels, and believe it or not, bro, a lot of these people that come from some of these places, these third world places, a lot of them were doctors and lawyers. They weren't broke. They've admitted, I've seen these motherfuckers on camera like, man, I'm trying to come over here and get some money and go back home. Like, what?
Yeah, but the thing is, if this phone hangs up, call me back on my other phone.
Okay.
But the thing is like, if they come from a communist country, they could be a doctor, but the money is the same.
Right, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So what happens is they're escaping, but not only are blacks going to be overlooked, you see, when it comes to funds and government grants that the cities and states get to help, they put it under minorities.
Right, yeah.
So minorities,
white women, LGBT, POC.
No, minorities is this: every other race and entity except for the white man and the white woman.
Whoa, hold on. Now, let me clarify that part about you said a white woman. White women were considered as
straight.
They don't say it,
straight,
but white
white women, straight white men, and straight white women.
Now, white
are
women
the only entities that are not considered a minority in America.
Now, check this out. White women in the minorities. I did some research. I did it on my second volume. They accounted for more than 50% of the minority benefit grants. You know that?
Who?
White women. Yes, sir.
Why, they count women as minorities?
They count women as minorities, and when they say women,
so then it's just straight white men.
Not straight white women, not straight white men, but by default, let's take it back to the plantation. Who were some of the major owners of enslaved Africans?
White men.
White women.
Oh, they really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. They own niggas left and right, because see, if you ever watch 12 Years a Slave, now that's just an example. The most brutal people when it came to a lot of the enslavement of black people were the white supremacist woman. You know why? Because the slave master, he going out there for that brown sugar and get a shot of that here and there. You remember Kizzy and Roots? Do you remember that? You'll never forget this scene. Remember when Pastor made us watch Roots for like a couple weeks, and all the kids, we were like, a lot of kids didn't really want to watch it. I'm glad he made us watch it. But Tom Moore. Remember Tom Moore? His son was Chicken George. Tom Moore, he liked Black Tail. So Tom Moore looked at it like, well, I paid for it. So yeah, you're gonna work for me, and I'm gonna get some of it too. And so he would go out every night or every other night, and he'd go and visit Kizzy. And you remember when his wife said, when Tom Moore said, "Hey, I'm gonna go out for a stroll," and his wife said, "Don't catch nothing," and then he said, "What?" And she was like, "Oh, it's a little nippy out there." And he kind of looked at her. He grabbed his pipe and he kind of looked at her a little funny, like. But she kind of knew, and you could see her face. So what would happen is the white women, and these sisters was getting taken against their will, bro. But the white women didn't care about that. They like, you know what? My husband's sleeping with you. He's raping you. They used to beat black women half to death, and they used to buy slaves. You see what I'm saying? So that when you say that, now what you're saying is correct on the surface. You're right. You said, well, straight white women, straight white men, that wouldn't include them because they're looking for people with sexual interest, sexual deviancy. They're looking for, so, but white women, and a white woman actually wrote a book about feminism and all that BS. They used the so-called feminist culture and the LGBT culture and took the bag right back to their husband. They used that, and that started kind of in the 60s and the 70s. That's some more MK Ultra kind of stuff, where social psychological propaganda and what they would do is they'll pull the women aren't getting equal pay, and we all know that white women get paid more than black women at work. We know that. We know that game. They'll go and they'll start using this old monthly women's festival and women's month and all this BS and all this, women don't get paid as much. And what they'll do is they'll get all these little diversity and inclusion things and all these little benefits, and then they'll turn around and then, they'll go back to Brad and be like, "Hey, baby, I got the bag." For real. It's a whole scam, bro. The diversity and inclusion, it really was supposed to really truthfully be for black folks, but